My wife made me push through my flu, so when she got pneumonia, I made her do the same. I was shivering under 4 blankets with a fever of 103.5 when my wife walked into the bedroom and told me we had her sister's engagement party that night, and I needed to get in the shower. I said I could barely lift my head without everything spinning, but she crossed her arms and said, "My dad worked construction for 30 years and never took a single sick day. I really need you to show up for my family tonight." I spent that party gripping a champagne glass I couldn't drink from, nodding at her relatives while sweat soaked through my shirt, and locking myself in their bathroom to muffle my coughing fits while she posed for family photos. The entire week after was hell. I was alone while she slept in the guest room because my coughing kept her from getting beauty sleep before her big presentation. Every night, she'd sigh that there was nothing prepared for dinner, so I'd drag myself to the stove with a 102 fever because apparently ordering takeout was too expensive. When I finally felt like I might be dying, I had to Uber myself to urgent care because she had a hair appointment booked 6 weeks in advance. I came home with severe influenza and orders to rest. She glanced at the pharmacy bag and asked, "So you'll be functional by the weekend, right? We have the charity gala for my firm." I spent 9 days drowning while she treated my illness like an inconvenience. 4 months later, she started coughing. She ignored it for 2 weeks, then woke up one Saturday wheezing and announced she probably had pneumonia and needed me to take care of her. I decided to give her exactly what she gave me. She asked for tea, and I said, "The kettle's on the stove." She asked me to call her office, and I said, "Your phone's on the nightstand." She pulled the comforter up and whispered she was freezing. I shrugged and said, "Some people just have naturally stronger immune systems." That first day, she stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. By the 4th day, my brother's wedding reception rolled around, and I walked into the bedroom and said, "I really need you to show up for my family tonight." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Your dad worked construction for 30 years and never took a sick day, remember?" I said with a smile. She went to that reception. She sat at our table looking miserable while I laughed with my cousins and pretended not to notice every time she tried to get my attention. When we got home, she turned on me. "You liked that, didn't you?" she said, parading me around while I'm sick. I said nothing. "You're incapable of being a real partner," she continued. "I've spent years trying to get you to step up emotionally, and you just can't do it." I lay awake that night wondering if she was right. The next morning, her mother called. "My daughter says she's terribly ill and you're doing nothing," she snapped. "What kind of husband treats his wife like this?" I started to explain what she'd done to me, but she cut me off. "Marriage isn't about keeping score." I hung up with my hands shaking. Her coughing got worse. She gasped for air and grabbed my hand. "Something's really wrong." I handed her the thermometer. It read 99.3, barely a fever, but she insisted it was broken. "I need to go to the ER," she said. I replied, "If it's that serious, call 911 yourself." She didn't. Instead, she posted on Instagram about being sick and alone. Suddenly, I was getting texts from her friends asking why I wasn't taking care of my wife. I stopped responding. 2 nights later, she grabbed my arm as I walked past and looked up with tears streaming down her face. "Do you even care if I'm dying?" she whispered. I looked down at her and said, "I cared when I was dying, and you made me smile at your sister's fiancé for 4 hours." The next morning, she snapped. She threw off the blankets and stood at full height, and suddenly she wasn't weak anymore. Her face was twisted with fury instead of pain. "You're pathetic," she shouted. "I wasn't even actually that sick." My entire body went cold. "I was exaggerating most of it to see if you'd actually be a husband, if you'd take care of me, and you completely failed." She was pacing now, arms gesturing wildly, voice getting louder. "I told my mom, I told all my friends, and they saw exactly who you really are." She spun to point at me for emphasis, and her foot caught the corner of the bed frame at full force. I heard the snap before she processed what happened. She collapsed screaming, clutching her foot. I could see her ankle bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. "Help me!" she shrieked. "Call 911!" I watched her writhing on the floor. "The ice packs are in the freezer," I said, and walked out.